This presentation is on decoding, which is the ability to apply your knowledge of letter-sound relationships to the written word. This is a challenge that my student that I have chosen has. Right now she is having issues with decoding. She's unable to blend any words that are unknown to her. Day to day, her letter to sound correspondence is very inconsistent. So certain days she may know her sounds, and then the next day she's completely forgotten some of them. She is able to recognize approximately 20 sight words. Again, she's also inconsistent with her sight words. She can read only the at-word family words. We worked on them for several weeks, and she still is able to recognize those words. She does have an IEP, and she is served in a self-contained special education classroom. So she is diagnosed with cerebral palsy, so she does have some motor issues, so which makes writing hard for her. Okay, the current strategies that I have tried and interventions that I have tried so far are language games. Language games increase interpersonal skills, they help with content knowledge, and they also help them to transfer skills that they know to other things. Also, proximity, she works very close by me. I sit right next to her where I can reach her, where I can help her if she can't reach something. She also does get distracted very easily, so it's very important that I sit with her or one of the paraprofessionals sits with her while she is doing her English language arts. Again, that is something that has been shown to help students that are easily distracted. Also with her, I use modeling. With the modeling, I'm very clear with her what the directions are. I use familiar language that is known to her, known vocabulary words, familiar language. I also show her even what to do if you make a mistake, how to fix it. Another thing that I do use with her is an alternate response. I use this with her because she does have so many issues with her motor, and so sometimes it is hard for her to write for long periods of time, or even the formation of her letters, it's hard for me to read, so I'm not sure if she's answering the question correctly or not. So what I do with her is sometimes she will use letter tiles or cut out letters and do cut and paste assignments so that she does not have to write her letters or write as many words. The last strategy that I use with her is organizational strategies. This would include things like sorting. When they sort into categories, it really does help them to retrieve memories, and it helps them with being able to kind of organize themselves and their thoughts. Okay, the best practices in decoding. So far, I found the Elkanon boxes, the manipulating morphemes, chunking, and symbol imagery are some of the things that I thought might work best for her with helping with her decoding. With the Elkanon boxes, I have used something similar to this, but not exactly like this and not in this way. So from what I read, it says that first a student will take a token for each sound that they hear in a word. After they progress from the token, then they will begin to use letters for the sounds in each box. So the example that I gave was for fish. It has 3 sounds, f, I, and sh. So that's why there's only 3 boxes. Even though there's 2 letters in one box, it is only 1 sound. And to get them to realize that and segment that. What was found by Joseph in 1998 was that students with learning disabilities showed the most improvement when they used these types of boxes. And again, with her, instead of writing, she may need to use letter tiles instead. Next thing that I want to try with her is the manipulating morphemes, using sound deletion and sound substitution. These are exercises that really need to be explicitly taught. In other words, they really need to know exactly how to do it and be shown thoroughly, given many examples, and be shown exactly what they need to do. These are all phonological awareness strategies, and it really helps students to recognize their words and recognize these words automatically, like sight words, and it makes them something that they can recognize on sight. And it also helps when they are able to manipulate the different sounds. All this, again, has to do with phonological awareness, which is the ability to be able to manipulate and identify oral sounds in language. So for example, I may have her say, replace the f sound in fit and replace it with a h sound, and ask her to give me the new word and see if she's able to do that. Another example would be deletion. So in other words, with the word card, ask her to take the d sound away and what is the new word, and have her tell me what that new word is. The third strategy that I would like to try with her is chunking. Chunking really has to do with the sets of syllables or the rhymes. It helps with improving blending, and it creates predictability. In other words, they'll start seeing that there's a pattern. Again, this is part of the phonological awareness, and the analytical phonics goes along with this because it uses the larger units instead of the small units. So for example, the units would be t and ak versus the synthetic phonics, which would be s, a, k, which would be 3 sounds. So again, this would be chunking. And what I found when I was reading is that there was some sort of, several researches that was done on analytical versus the synthetic phonics. And it kind of went back and forth with it. But some of the things that they did find was that with the analytical phonics or the chunking type approach with the rhymes, that the students were able to read a larger number of words in the group that was just taught with the synthetic phonics approach. And also they found that when chunking was used, that the students did have greater success. The teacher that they were looking at also used finger pointing and also used small group instruction as well. But they did find that the first graders with the poor reading skills did improve the most from using chunking. Okay, next is symbol imagery, which I have not tried with her, and I have not really thought of it in this way. A lot of times we use imagery when we are reading, but I have not thought about using imagery in regards to having her learn her letters, letter sounds, and words. So with the symbol imagery, what they really want the students to do is to have a mental representation for the sounds and the letters within words. So that is supposed to help with their decoding words even in context. And what they would need to do is, use their fingers to write the letter or write the word in the air as they're saying the sounds and saying the word. And that kind of helps them to create a symbol in their mind or a picture in their mind. And it will help them to learn how to spell it and what the sounds are. Okay, for assessment, to assess if the strategies have worked, I'd also have to have a baseline. So that would mean I would need to give her a test or a pre-test first to include things like a word list, have words like that are real and nonsense words, different phonemic awareness, and go ahead and give that to her several times. One of the assessments that I did use in the past was the Georgia State testing for kindergarten. We do have a different one now, but this one was perfect, and it came in a pamphlet, and it had the phonemic awareness in there. It had the deletion and substitution of sounds and seeing if they could do it. It had the word lists in there. It had the blending in there and had all the different components. And we would test them 4 times during the year to see how they progress. So I would really like to get a hold of that assessment. Hopefully it's still online. I can print it out and use this with her. I would also like to do the DRA, do that with her again. And also the San Diego Quick Method, which I have never used before, but when I looked it up online with the link, I thought that that was a really good assessment, and that would give me a focus on the different phonics and decoding that she would need to be working on. So here's the conclusion. According to most of the research that I did read, it did say that the direct, explicit instruction was the most important thing to do. So you need to show them and teach them exactly what they need to do to manipulate the morphemes, to blend their words, to be able to read. Also, it helps to have a repeated exposure of these words in multiple contexts. In other words, seeing the words used in different ways, in different reading, as well as with their spelling and their sight words. And that will help them to learn the word even when it's isolated. The next thing is we really need to effectively plan how the students are going to practice and how you're going to evaluate them. So in other words, exactly how are they going to practice? How long is it going to take them? Are they practicing only what they need to learn and not anything extra? So it has to be really focused and strategic. Also, they need to be engaged. So, in other words, they need to be learning something and actively engaged in their learning. And it was found that effective teachers have to have at least 80% of the time being used as academic time. The ineffective teachers were around 63%, and the most effective teachers were actually all the way at the 96% learning time, which is incredible. Another thing is phonics instruction. It needs to really include both real and nonsense words, and I have not done this very often, so that's really what I want to include is some of the nonsense words to see if she can go ahead and sound out the word, even if it's not a real word, just to know that she knows how to blend words. And last is the phonemic awareness exercises, again, which I have not done with her, but just to get her to do the deletions and the substitution of sounds and the rhymes, and to see if that really will help her with her word recognition and be able to look at something and automatically recognize it. Finally, here is my reference list, which is a little bit off. But here it is.